Hi everyone. Before we get started on our Georgia O'Keeffe inspired painting today, we're just going to start off as a quick exercise, just practicing blending again between tints, tones and shades. At a minimum, I think that everyone needs to be mixing some tints and some shades. If the tones is too challenging, you don't have to do that one, but we're at least going to have tones at one end, shades at another end, and then the colour in the middle, or this might be tones in the middle. I've just chosen to work with red today. I think that it will help you to choose like one primary colour really, but if you want an extra challenge then feel free to mix a secondary. I'm just going to start off by mixing up my different colours in the same way that we did last time, and I'm going to kind of mix them in small patches on the palette so that they hopefully don't dry out too quickly. And now I've got this colour on my brush, because I'm continuing to use the same colours and just changing the ratio, I'm just going to take my brush now, I don't need to wash it in between, and I'm going to take a little bit more of this colour. And then I'm going to keep going like that. So if you notice there, I just added a really tiny bit of black and it still made the colour really, really dark. So obviously we only need a small amount. I'm just going to add a bit more of the colour to that one. So I'm mixing a whole range. This one, as I've got white on my brush, is a tone. And this is going to be down the darker end, but a little bit towards the middle as well. Make it a bit brighter with the colour. So if you notice how I'm like rolling my brush as well, I think that's quite helpful to make sure that you've not got too much water, too much paint on your brush as well. So you might start to notice as well that when you make your different colours, say for example if you're mixing shades of yellow, you might start to get some quite brown colours. I've got a slightly purpley colour here. You'll get a little mix. Okay, I think that looks like I'm ready to go. So I'm going to start with my white, then blend the two tints, then move to this shade. I actually might add a little bit of white to that one before. I kind of like it actually. So then to this one, and then this tone, and then this shade. Okay, so you're generally just trying to mix a range of colours, and then you'll order them from lightest to darkest. So we'll try and start, if possible, with the lightest colour. So obviously that's our white today. Try and drag your brush in one direction, and then to blend the next colour into that, again I don't really need to wash my brush. I'm just going to take a little bit of the second colour, and then I'm going to place it just to overlap the first colour. And once I've done that, then I can take my brush. With this one, I'm actually not going to wash it. I'm just going to wipe it on my cloth, or if you've got a tissue, and then I'm just going to try and go over the join a little bit. You might want to use a tiny bit of the lighter colour, that can help move the paint a bit. And I'm dragging my brush through the colours this way rather than up and down as well, please. Okay, and then once you're happy that it's you've successfully blended the two colours, I'm going to rinse my brush here, and then I'm going to take a little bit more of the second colour again, and I'm just going to overlap what I already have, just because it's drying out a little bit. So you want to make sure that as you're painting, the kind of first layer of acrylic is staying wet so that you can blend. So the wet on wet technique is what we're using today. Okay, so now that one is ready, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just rolling the excess of paint off my brush, taking some of the next colour and overlapping. I think not painting enough of the area really. So I think last lesson, a couple of you were struggling with brush control. It is practice really, but if you just notice that I'm always just sweeping my brush in one direction, I'm never pushing it forwards, so never pushing out like that. If you watch the bristles there, they all fan outwards, so we want to try and pull towards us or across in just one direction. That'll really help. And holding your brush well, especially you learn, some people I think don't like this so much, but holding your brush quite far down on the metal part will give you a little bit more control than if you hold the brush up there like that. Okay, so I've washed my brush. I'm just going to take the second colour again, or the first colour with this mix, and just overlap again, and exactly the same as before. Okay, I'll just speed this up a minute. Okay, so for this bit, it might be worth you turning your page so that you can move your brush in a way that's not awkward for your wrist. You'll probably get a bit better control by doing that. Try and use the very tip of the paintbrush. Obviously you don't want too much paint on your brush when you're trying to do small areas. It'd be the same if you were painting details. You could use a smaller brush if you want. Oh, and I've just gone a bit wrong. And then just try and direct the brush strokes back in the same direction again. Okay, great, so that's done. What we're going to do is, with these colours that you've used here, we're going to use those to fill the outline that you've drawn from the images that you've taken over the weekend, and we're going to use your black and white photo to help you direct where the tints, tones and shades go as well. So obviously our shades, our darkest tones, are going to go in the place of the shadows in the darkest areas of our image, and then the tones we're going to use for highlights. So before actually is that it might be a good idea to start with your background. I've just automatically gone into the kind of centre there, but especially if you've got dark areas, you want to kind of work from the background to the foreground, as I'm adding especially some light colours here, and the layering, like I was talking about before, you want the layers of paint to kind of go in the order from background to foreground, and that will really help with some depth as well. So I think I might actually take a little break from this bit now and then start adding in some darker tones to my background. I'm going to simplify my background because obviously we're using Georgia O'Keeffe as an influence today, and my background is kind of quite complicated and quite complex, and her work is abstract. I want to focus on the lighter objects or leaves that I've got in the front. So for the background, because my background is very dark, I'm going to just use the shades, but I can use a few different types of shades, and I am going to look at the light. I'm not going to try and paint exact objects, but I am going to try and look at the light and see generally which bits are darker, lighter, and try and place those bits accurately, those colours accurately. Okay, so at this point I've finished filling in the background colours, and I'm going to work forwards, eventually kind of moving into the bits that are the most in the foreground, if that makes sense. I am actually going to start by mixing up a very, very light tint and with quite a lot of water, to kind of put over the general shapes, as I know that I'm going to be painting all of this with fairly light pinks, and then in some places I'll have shadows. I'm going to put that light pink tint all over that. What that will help do is help give like an initial layer to build up from, and then also on the areas that are highlights, I'm going to keep it to the highlight colour, which will be slightly off-white. When we might want to go back and put in some kind of more exaggerated highlights, but if we put kind of like a real, unless it is a perfect white highlight on, like, say for example, like shiny plastic might be like that, unless it is like a perfect white highlight, we want it to have a little bit of the tinge of this colour, so it blends in well with what with the colours that we're using. Okay, so I'm just going to add quite a lot of water next to the palette there, sorry. So it's much more similar to watercolour now. And I don't ever want too much on my brush because we don't want it to pull, but I'm just going to brush it across every area that I'm going to do with that kind of pink colour now. Okay. Now my wash is done, I'm gonna I might wait for it to dry a little bit in some areas, and then I'm going to start building up my thicker colours now. So I'm going to start from the lightest colours, and then build up that way. I think I'm going to try and work on small sections at a time, and for me at the moment I might just work on like a leaf at a time, so break it down into chunks from